It's the story of Giuseppe Verdi, the story of the little boy who loved the hand organ. The picture on this page is of the house wherein a great composer was born. Of course, one is not born a great composer. He has to become that. So at the moment this story begins, there is within this house a little boy quite like any other boy. He loved to play and to make a noise and have a good time. But most of all, what do you think he loved? A hand organ. Whenever the organ man came into the village of Roncole in Italy, where Verdi was born, October 10th, 1813, he could not be kept indoors. But when he followed the wonderful organ and the wonderful man who played it all day long, as happy as he could be. When Giuseppe was 7 years old, his father, though only a poor innkeeper, bought him a spinet, a sort of small piano. So faithfully did the little boy practice that the spinet was quite soon worn out and new jacks or hammers had to be made for it. This was done by Stephen Cavalletti, who wrote a message in one of the jacks telling that he made them anew and covered them with leather and fixed the pedal, doing all for nothing because of the little boy Giuseppe Verdi showed so much willingness to practice and learn. Thus the good Stephen thought this was pay enough. Here's a picture of the little piano in Verdi's language, which is Italian. It is called a spinetta. It was on the spinet that the little boy discovered one day a wonderful chord, for it seemed so to him. It was this. It is the chord of C. The tones delighted him, and he pressed the keys over and over again to drink them in. But the next day, when he sought again the keys which made this lovely sound, he could not find them. This made him so impatient and finally so curious that he began to break the spinet to pieces with a hammer. Fortunately, the noise he made brought his father into the room, and the spinet was saved. When Giuseppe was making his first attempt to find beautiful chords on the spinet, he was, as we have said, 7 years old. That was in 1820. When he was 10 years old, in what year was that, Giuseppe became organist at the old church of Roncole. Truly a little boy for such a great position. One day he scratched his name on the woodwork. Here's a picture of the organ. Here's the scratching of his name. And here's the way he wrote his name as a man. Then there came the question of education, of reading, writing, spelling, and arithmetic, for this music-loving boy. The Verdis wanted Giuseppe to grow up as he should, so it was arranged for him to go to school in the neighboring town of Busseto. A cobbler lived there who was a friend of the family, and with him Giuseppe went to live, having board, lodging, and tuition at the school, and all for 6 cents a day. Giuseppe still played at the organ at Roncole, going thither afoot every Sunday morning and back every nightfall. He must have been a weary little boy after the day's music making at the church. One Sunday night, when it was dark and he was too weary to notice where he was going, he fell into a ditch, from which he was rescued by an old woman who, hearing his call for help, pulled the half-frozen boy out of the water. Our little hero had another talent besides music. He knew how to win the friendship of people. So at Busseto, a man named Barezzi offered it to take him into his business. He sold spices, drugs, and perfumes. But besides this, he played the flute in the church. At his house, Giuseppe heard lots of good music, for the town orchestra rehearsed there. Here's a picture of Giuseppe's friend, Barezzi. Then Giuseppe made another friend, who gave him a wonderful bit of advice. He urged him to become a composer. Better still, he helped the boy in every way he could until he was 16 years old. By that time, our little Giuseppe had grown to be quite a man. His friend, whose name was Ferdinando Provezi, was proud of him, for already he was becoming a great master. He played the cathedral organ at times, and conducted the Philharmonic Orchestra, led its rehearsals, and composed music for its concerts. So you see, all the wonderful operas that we were to come were already on the way. It had been written that Provezi was the first person to see and understand Verdi's real genius. The boy worked hard and advanced so rapidly that it was soon necessary for him to go to a larger city for lessons. Now, a good friend is always a good friend, so it is pleasing to tell that Barezzi sent Giuseppe to Milan, the lovely city of Lombardy, to study. And here a curious thing happened. He was refused a scholarship at the Conservatory of Milan. The reason given was that the authorities considered him to show no special talent for music. But this made no difference to the boy, who believed in his talent and kept at work to perfect it. So as the years went by, he kept on learning more and more, doing his work well, and always preparing himself for better things. Then one day he was ready to begin to compose the operas that made him famous. Sometime when you will read the full list of Verdi's operas, you will learn that he wrote 30. The first was performed in 1839 when he was 26 years old, and the last in 1893 when he was 80. You'll not need to remember the titles of them all, but you must know the names of the great ones, for one day you'll see them and hear them performed. Here are the principal ones: Hernani, Rigoletto, Il Trovatore, La Traviata, Sicilian Vespers, Othello, Aida, Masked Ball, and Falstaff. Do you know that one of Verdi's operas, the scene is laid in our country? The Masked Ball was first entitled Gustavo III, but the authorities would not allow reference to certain political matters in it. Therefore, the libretto, or story of the opera, was changed, and the scene laid in Boston, Massachusetts. One of the characters was the governor of Boston, a humorous matter to us, but there wasn't, for there never was such an official. Another famous opera by Verdi, the scene of which is laid in a foreign country, is Aida. It was written for the Khedive of Egypt and first performed in Cairo in 1871 when the composer was 58 years old. After Verdi had composed Aida, he wrote no more operas for 16 years. Then, to the great surprise of the world, he wrote two others, the finest of them all, Othello and Falstaff. Meanwhile, he was a farmer. He planted, harvested, helped his tenants, urged them to cultivate the land carefully. He brought all kinds of American farming machinery to show the Italians how to cultivate the ground to best advantage. The great man, who was once a simple little boy, died in 1901 on January 27th, which day is the anniversary of Mozart's birth. All his long life, Verdi had succeeded, doing a little more and a little better each year, so that at the end of his life he was able to do truly wonderful things, namely to build a home for musicians who had not succeeded in life, where they could find a comfortable, abiding place in their old age. In this house are many souvenirs of the great Italian. Here, too, is the tomb of Giuseppe Verdi. Verdi was loved by his fellow countrymen. His music is their joy, and ours, and will remain for years to come, perhaps forever. The great sculptor Vincenzo Gemito has modeled wonderful bronze busts of Verdi, which show us how the little boy of Roncalli grew to be a man of world renown.